What if I told you that the ground beneath your feet isn't just dirt?
Hmm.
What if I told you it is actually a living, breathing history book, a manuscript that, determines the fate of empires, dictates the flow of our modern economy, and, more importantly for you right now, holds the key to solving some of the trickiest questions that stump thousands of students every single year?
It really does. It's an archive.
Exactly. We often walk over it without a second thought, kicking rocks aside. But understanding this specific chapter of the Earth's story, it's the secret weapon you need for UPSC mastery.
It really is. I think when you stop looking at soil as just stuff on the ground and you start seeing it as the battlefield, the literal demilitarized zone between the sun, the rain, and the rock itself, everything changes. You start seeing the world differently.
That's a perfect way to put it, the battlefield.
Exactly.
Welcome to this special UPSC-focused deep dive brought to you by the Simplified UPSC by PPP YouTube channel. We are so glad to have you here.
It's great to be here. This is a fantastic topic.
It is. Now, before we crack open the NCERT and get our hands dirty, figuratively speaking, of course, I have a humble request. We are putting a lot of effort into decoding these dense texts for you.
A lot of effort.
A lot of effort.
Mm.
So if you find value in what we're doing here, if this helps you connect the dots between a rock and a test score, please subscribe to the channel. It's a small click for you, but it's huge for us.
It tells the algorithm that this is useful stuff.
It does. And if you are capable, please consider supporting us on Patreon. That support is, it's what allows us to keep the lights on and keep bringing this super useful content to you.
Absolutely. We really appreciate every bit of support. It keeps the engine running.
A huge shout out to all our existing supporters. You guys are the fuel for this engine. We literally couldn't do this without you. And for everyone listening, don't forget to like this video and drop a valuable comment below. It helps the algorithm find other serious learners just like you.
And we have some resources to help people follow along, right?
Yes, that's a great point. Important announcement. We have free notes with practice PYQs, that's previous year questions, available right now on our Telegram channel. The link is right there in the description.
That's amazing. Free notes.
Totally free. But for the serious learners, the ones who want to go the extra mile, you can join our private Telegram library.
Okay, so what's in the private library?
That gives you access to all the videos in this series, organized premium notes, extra PYQs, and even model mains answers.
Wow, model answers. That is a game changer.
It really is. It shows you how to structure your thoughts for the long-form questions. Just DM us on the public Telegram channel to join that private library.
That sounds like an incredible resource.
We think so. Okay, let's unpack this. What is our mission for today? What are we trying to achieve?
Today's mission is precise. We are decoding the concepts from NCERT Class 11 Geography, specifically focusing on the chapter regarding soil formation, which is technically known as Pedogenesis, and the broader topic of geomorphic processes. But we aren't just going to recite definitions. That's not the point.
No way. That would be boring.
Yeah.
We aren't just reading the book. We are linking every single concept to actual PYQs from 2013, 2014, and beyond to show you exactly how the exam tests this knowledge. We're going to take the theory and immediately apply it to the reality of the test.
That is the best way to learn. Context is everything. You can memorize a definition, but if you don't know how to apply it to a four-statement multiple-choice question, you're dead in the water.
Totally. So let's start with the basics then. The text just throws around this term geomorphic processes. It sounds heavy. It sounds technical. It sounds like something I'd want to skip if I was reading this on my own.
It does sound a bit intimidating.
So what does that actually mean for a student trying to wrap their head around physical geography?
Think of it as a constant battle, a tug of war on a planetary scale.
A battle, okay.
On one side, you have endogenic forces. These are the forces coming from inside the earth volcanism, tectonics, earthquakes. Their job is to build things up. They push mountains higher, they create new land, they elevate the crust.
Okay, so endogenic, endo meaning inside.
Yeah.
They're the construction crew, the builders.
Exactly, the builders. And on the other side, you have the exogenic forces. These derive their energy ultimately from the sun and the atmosphere.
So that's like wind, water.
Wind, water, glaciers, waves. Their job is the exact opposite. They want to wear things down. They want to flatten everything back to sea level. They are the demolition crew.
The demolition crew. I love that. Builders versus demolition.
And soil. Soil is essentially the byproduct of this war. It's the rubble left over when the atmosphere attacks the lithosphere.
That is a fantastic way to visualize it. So soil isn't just there. It's the result of a conflict. It's the debris field.
Precisely. And the source text makes it absolutely clear. You cannot have soil without weathering. Weathering is the prerequisite. You can't bake a cake without flour, and you can't mix soil without weathered rock.
Right.
The NCERT defines it as the mechanical disintegration and chemical decomposition of rocks.
Mechanical disintegration and chemical decomposition. Let's break that down, because I feel like people gloss over this. This isn't just hitting a rock with a hammer, is it?
Not at all.
The text gets into some very specific chemical processes. It mentions oxidation and reduction.
Yes, and this is where it gets fascinating, especially if you're looking for visual cues in the landscape. I mean, you can literally see these processes at work. Let's start with oxidation.
Okay.
Think about what oxidation actually is. It's a mineral gasping for air. Oxidation is exactly what happens to a rusty nail or a piece of old iron left out in the rain. It's the combination of a mineral with oxygen to form oxides or hydroxides.
Right. Rust.
It's just rust. The text specifically mentions iron, manganese, and sulfur as the minerals most commonly involved in this. But here is the nuance the NCERT hints at. This isn't just a color change. It's a structural breakdown.
What do you mean by that?
When a rock that contains iron is exposed to the atmosphere, to oxygenated water, it oxidizes. The iron oxide that forms actually expands in volume.
It gets bigger, like it puffs up.
It expands, yes, which disrupts the crystal structure of the rock from the inside. It makes it crumbly. It physically weakens the rock, making it way more susceptible to further erosion.
Ah, so it's not just a surface stain. The rust is actually breaking the rock apart.
It's an internal attack. And visually, the text says it turns brown or yellow. That red, yellow, earthy look we see in so many soils, especially in tropical regions, that's oxidation in action. It's a signal that oxygen is present.
Okay, so if I see red soil, like in parts of the Deccan Plateau or the Chotanagpur Plateau, I should immediately think, okay, oxidation has happened here. I am looking at a rusted landscape.
Exactly. That color is a geological signal. It's shouting, oxygen was here.
But then what about reduction? That sounds like the opposite.
It is the complete opposite. Reduction occurs when oxygen is absent. The text explains that this usually happens below the water table, or in areas of stagnant waterlogged ground, swamps, marshes.
So the water blocks the air.
Yeah.
It essentially suffocates the soil.
It suffocates the soil, exactly. And without oxygen, the iron undergoes reduction. It loses that oxygen bond. And visually, this looks very, very different. The text says the red color of iron turns to a greenish or bluish gray.
Bluish gray. That sounds so counterintuitive. Usually we associate blue with water or sky, but here you're saying the color of the dirt itself is a chemical scar left by the lack of air.
Precisely. It's called glaying. If you are digging a pit for a foundation or something and you hit a layer of sticky blue-gray clay, you know immediately that layer has been starved of oxygen, probably because it was underwater for a long, long time. You're reading the history of the water table just by looking at the color of the dirt.
That is wild. It's almost like the soil is bruising because it can't breathe.
That's a very poetic way to put it, but chemically, it's not far off. It's a sign of an anoxic environment.
Now, let's connect this to the so what factor. This is cool science, but why does a UPSC aspirant or, anyone interested in the economy care about rocks rusting or suffocating?
Here is where it gets really, really interesting from an economic perspective. Weathering isn't just destructive. It is also a process of enrichment.
Enrichment. But it wears things down, it breaks them apart.
Yeah.
How does destroying rock enrich it?
It wears down the rock mass, yes. But in doing so, it concentrates the valuable stuff. The text explicitly states that weathering helps concentrate valuable ores, things like iron, manganese, and aluminum, specifically bauxite, which is our main source of aluminum.
Okay, how does that work? Is it making more aluminum?
No, it's not creating new elements. It's more like a refining process. Think of it like a coffee filter or a sieve.
Yeah.
Chemical weathering, particularly in tropical areas, involves a lot of water leaching through the rock. This water washes away the waste materials, the more soluble minerals like silica from the rock mass.
So it's cleaning the rock.
It's cleaning it. It's washing away the stuff we don't want, leaving behind the valuable, less soluble heavy metals like iron and aluminum oxides in much higher concentrations.
So without weathering?
Without weathering, the concentration of these valuable materials in the original rock would be so low that it wouldn't be economically viable to mine them. We essentially let nature do the initial refining for us over millions of years. If nature hadn't spent all that time breaking down the rock and washing away the impurities, we wouldn't have the rich bauxite deposits that power our aluminum industry.
That is a massive connection.
Yeah.
It links physical geography directly to economic geography. So weathering equals money.
In a very real sense, yes. The entire global mining industry owes a huge debt to chemical weathering.
Wow. Now, the text also talks about physical weathering, not just chemical. It describes something called exfoliation. That sounds like a skincare term.
It's a great analogy, actually. The process is very similar. The text uses the analogy of onion peeling.
Onion peeling. That's a distinct image. I get that.
So imagine a large mass of rock deep underground, granite usually. It's under immense pressure from all the rocks sitting on top of it. Tons and tons of weight pushing down from all sides.
Okay, so it's completely compressed.
Now imagine erosion slowly, over millions of years, removes that overlying weight, a process the book calls unloading. The rock is essentially being depressurized.
Like taking a lid off a pressurized container.
Exactly like that. The rock expands upward and outward, and when you combine that with thermal expansion heating up in the day and cooling down at night, which is also mentioned, the outer layers of the rock start to crack and flake off. They peel away in these big curved sheets, just like the layers of an onion.
And this is what creates those huge, smooth, rounded hills we sometimes see, like in the Deccan Plateau.
Yes, exactly. The text calls them exfoliation domes. If you've ever seen a smooth, dome-shaped granite hill, you aren't looking at water erosion. You're looking at a rock that is literally relaxing and shedding its skin because the pressure is gone.
Okay, so we've pulverized the rock, we've oxidized it, we've peeled it like an onion, we have a pile of debris. But a pile of debris isn't soil yet, is it?
No, not yet. That is just regolith. It's the raw ingredient. Now we need to organize it. We need to cook it. And this leads us to pedogenesis.
Pedogenesis, the birth of soil.
Right. And the text gives a really beautiful definition of soil. It calls it a collection of natural bodies on the Earth's surface containing living and/or dead matter and supporting or capable of supporting plants.
And it emphasizes that soil is dynamic. I think that's a key word. It's not a static thing. It changes with the seasons. It fluctuates.
It's alive, basically. It breathes, it evolves, and the NCERT source breaks down the creation of soil into 5 basic control factors. This is a classic framework, and if you can master these 5, you can pretty much predict the soil type you'll find anywhere in the world.
Okay, let's run through them. This seems really important. Factor number 1, parent material.
This is considered a passive factor. It's the raw material. The weathered rock debris we just talked about, the regolith.
So if the parent rock is granite, the soil will be fundamentally different than if the parent rock is, say, sandstone or limestone.
Absolutely. The texture, the size of the debris, and the chemical composition depend on this. If your parent material is coarse, like granite or sandstone, your soil will tend to be sandy and coarse. It sets the baseline chemistry and texture. But if your parent material is basalt,
Like the lava rocks we see in the Deccan.
yes, basalt is very fine-grained and rich in iron and magnesium. It weathers down into a very fine, sticky clay. That creates a completely different soil structure. We'll see that later when we talk about the black soils of India.
Okay, so parent material is the ingredients. Factor number 2, topography. This is also listed as a passive factor.
Right. Topography is all about the lay of the land, the shape of the surface. And the text makes a very clear, very important distinction here. Steep slopes have thin soil.
Why is that? It seems obvious, but what's the mechanism?
It's just gravity and water. It's simple physics. Erosion is fast on a steep slope, water runs off quickly, and it drags the topsoil with it before it has a chance to settle and mature, or what we call cook. It doesn't have time.
So that's why mountains are often just bare rock at the top.
Exactly. Conversely, flat areas, like floodplains or plateaus, develop thick layers of soil. The text mentions that over flat areas, water moves slowly, it pools, you get a thick layer of clay accumulating, and a good accumulation of organic matter, which gives the soil a dark color.
So as a rule of thumb, steep equals thin and rocky. Flat equals thick and dark.
Generally, yes, it's a very good starting point. And there's another nuance regarding topography that the text brings up. Sunlight. This is fascinating.
Sunlight. How does sunlight affect soil?
It's about slope aspect. In the middle latitudes, think of the Himalayas in the northern hemisphere. South-facing slopes get more direct sunlight throughout the day.
Ah, right, because the sun is slightly to the south in the sky.
Exactly. So those south-facing slopes are warmer and drier. The north-facing slopes are in shadow for more of the day, so they are cooler and moister.
And that matters because
It leads to completely different vegetation and therefore different soil types on opposite sides of the same hill. One side might be a dry scrubland with thin soil, while the other side, just a few hundred meters away, might be a thick, damp forest with deep, rich soil.
That is such a cool detail. It's a microclimate created by topography, which then directs soil genesis. Okay, factor number 3. This feels like the big one, especially for UPSC climate.
This is the primary active factor. It is absolutely crucial. Climate, more than anything else, drives the chemical and biological processes. It really involves two main elements: moisture, so precipitation, and temperature.
The text introduces two fancy terms here that often confuse students.
Yeah.
Eluviation and Illuviation. Let's decode those. They sound similar.
They do, and it's easy to mix them up. But think of E for exit and I for in. That's the easiest mnemonic I know.
E for exit, I for in. Okay.
Illuviation is the washing down or washing out of soil components. Rainwater seeps into the topsoil, dissolves minerals, and picks up tiny bits of clay and organic matter and transports them downward. It's exiting the upper layer.
And Illuviation with an I.
Illuviation is the deposition of those components in the lower layers. So the top layer loses stuff, that's illuviation, and the bottom layer gains stuff, that's illuviation. It's like a vertical conveyor belt running inside the soil.
Got it. Now, the text links this to specific climate types. This is where we really need to pay attention for the exam. It talks about dissilication.
This is vital for understanding tropical soils. So let's focus here. In wet equatorial areas, the high rainfall zones, it rains incredibly hard. It rains almost every afternoon.
Right.
The sheer volume of water moving through the soil is immense, and it's warm. This warm water is a more effective solvent, and it leaches out not just the easily soluble salts like sodium and magnesium, but it also starts attacking the silica.
Wait, hold on. You're saying it washes away silica? I usually think of silica as sand quartz. That stuff is really tough. How does rain wash away sand? Are we talking about physical washing or a chemical process?
That's a great question, a really important distinction. It's not washing away sand grains physically like a broom sweeping dust. In these intense tropical conditions, the water is warm and often slightly acidic from all the decaying vegetation. It actually dissolves the silica chemically over geologic time and leaches it out of the soil profile.
It dissolves the sand. That is intense.
It is. The removal of silica is called desilication. And so the big question is, what is left behind? What's left is the stuff that is hardest to dissolve, the oxides of iron and aluminum.
The rust.
The rust, essentially. This is the chemical recipe for laterite soils, which, as we'll see, is a favorite topic in the PYQs. Laterite is literally a soil of leftovers. It's what remains when almost everything else has been washed away.
Okay, so high rain equals desilication. What about dry climates? The opposite scenario.
In dry climates, the process completely reverses. High temperature means evaporation exceeds precipitation.
So the water isn't washing down, it's being pulled up from below.
Exactly. Capillary action, just like a paper towel sucking up water, pulls groundwater up to the surface. And as that water evaporates into the hot, dry air, it leaves behind whatever salts were dissolved in it.
Like leaving a glass of salt water out in the sun, all you're left with is a crust of salt.
Precisely. And the text calls these formations hard pans. Or specifically in the Indian context, you get the formation of canker nodules. These are little lumps of calcium carbonate. You often see these white, stony nodules in the soils of drier regions like parts of Rajasthan or Haryana.
So canker is a sign, it's a clue that evaporation is winning the battle against rain in that area.
Perfectly put. If you see canker, you know the climate is dry. If you see laterite, you know the climate has been very, very wet for a long time. The soil tells you the climate story.
Fantastic. Moving on to factor number 4, biological activity.
This is where the life comes in. Plants, animals, bacteria, fungi. They add organic matter or humus to the soil. They are the great mixers.
The text draws a really interesting comparison here between cold climates and tropical climates when it comes to humus.
It does, and it's deeply counterintuitive for many people. You might think, the Amazon jungle has so much life, so much biomass, the soil must be incredibly rich and full of humus.
Right. That seems logical. Big trees, tons of leaves falling.
Yeah.
It must equal big soil nutrients.
But the text explains it's the opposite. In human tropical climates, bacterial activity is intense. It's warm, it's wet, it's a bacterial paradise. They are hyper-efficient. They eat everything almost as soon as it falls. Dead vegetation oxidizes and decomposes with incredible rapidity.
So the turnover is too fast.
Exactly. So the actual humus content stored in the soil at any given time is very low.
Wow. So the jungle consumes itself so fast that the soil doesn't get to keep the nutrients.
Precisely. The nutrients are all locked up in the living biomass, in the trees themselves, not in the dirt. This is why slash and burn agriculture is so unsustainable there. If you cut the forest down, the soil is actually quite poor and gets exhausted very quickly.
That's the Amazon paradox. And what about cold climates?
The opposite is true. Compare that to cold climates like the tundra or northern forests. Bacterial growth is extremely slow because it's freezing for much of the year. Dead matter doesn't decompose fully, so you get these thick layers of peat and high humus accumulation.
That is fascinating. So cold equals high humus storage. Hot and wet equals low humus storage. Completely the reverse of what you'd intuitively think.
Correct. It's all about the speed of the bacteria.
The text also mentions nitrogen fixation. This is a key biological process.
Yes, and it's critical. The air we breathe is almost 80% nitrogen, but plants can't use it in its gaseous form. So certain bacteria like Rhizobium, which live in the root nodules of leguminous plants like peas and beans, do this amazing trick.
What do they do?
They take gaseous nitrogen from the air pockets in the soil and fix it. They convert it into a chemical form like ammonia or nitrates that the plants can absorb. It's basically natural fertilizer manufacturing happening right there in the roots.
And we can't forget the mechanical engineers of the soil. Earthworms, ants, termites.
Bioturbators, yes, the text mentions them. They are constantly reworking the soil, pulling organic matter down, bringing mineral soil up, creating tunnels that aerate the soil and allow water to penetrate. They are absolutely essential for maintaining good soil structure and texture.
Finally, the last factor. Factor number 5, time.
This is the maturation factor. Soil doesn't just appear overnight. It takes time to develop those distinct layers or horizons that soil scientists talk about.
So a young soil, what does that look like?
A young soil, like, say, recent alluvium deposited by a river flood last year, hasn't had time for these processes to work on it. It's just a homogeneous mix of parent material. It doesn't have layers. But a mature soil has been sitting there long enough for climate and biology to create distinct profiles. You know, a dark topsoil, a clay-rich subsoil, etc.
So time effectively determines the ripeness or the development of the soil.
That's a good way to think of it. A soil in the ancient shield of South India has had millions of years to develop, while the soil in the Gangetic plain might only be a few thousand years old. They are at very different stages of their life cycle.
Okay, so we have the soil, it's formed, but sometimes, as you said, the weathered mantle doesn't just sit there. Sometimes it decides to move, and when it moves, it can be terrifying. This brings us to mass movements.
This is the danger zone of geomorphic processes. This is when gravity takes over completely and catastrophically.
The text classifies these movements based on speed and moisture. We have flow, slide, and heave.
Right. And if you have the notes, you can reference figure 6.5 in the source. At the very slow end of the spectrum, you have creep. It's so slow it's imperceptible. You might only notice it because a fence post or a tree starts tilting downhill over the course of 10 or 20 years.
That's the heave part.
Usually, yes. Things like frost heaving push the soil up when it freezes and then it settles slightly down when it thaws. It inches its way down a slope.
And then you have the rapid ones, the ones that make the news.
Yes. The earth flow, mud flow, debris avalanche. These are fast, often saturated with water, and incredibly dangerous. A mud flow can move like wet concrete, carrying cars and boulders with it.
There is a critical case study in the text that asks a brilliant question. It compares the Himalayas to the Western Ghats.
Yes, this is a classic geography question. The text poses the question, why do debris avalanches occur so frequently in the Western Ghats and Nilgiris?
Because usually we associate major landslides with the Himalayas, right? Because they are young, they're tectonically active, they're still growing.
Correct. The Himalayas are technically more unstable from a seismic point of view. But the Western Ghats have a specific lethal combination of conditions that trigger these rapid mass movements.
What are those conditions? The text lays them out.
First, the topography itself. The slopes are steeper. The text specifically mentions almost vertical cliffs and escarpments. The Western Ghats rise very abruptly from the coastal plain.
Okay, so extreme steepness. What's second?
Second, the temperature range.
Mechanical weathering.
Yes. High diurnal temperature ranges cause rocks to expand and contract repeatedly, which cracks them mechanically over time. They are pre-weakened. And third, and this is the trigger-heavy amounts of rainfall in very short periods.
The monsoons. So you have pre-cracked rocks on a vertical cliff, and then you hit it with a monsoon deluge.
Exactly. The text says the result is direct rockfall and landslides. It's less about tectonic shaking, like in the Himalayas, and more about gravity and water overloading a system that is already on the edge. The water gets into the cracks, lubricates the surfaces, adds weight, and the whole thing just lets go.
So, to simplify, for the Himalayas, The primary driver is often tectonic instability. For the Western Ghats, it's the combination of steep slopes, intense rain, and prior mechanical weathering.
That's the core distinction the text is getting at.
That is super clear. Now let's pivot. We promised to link this to the exam. We've done the theory. We built the soil. We've washed it. We've slid it down a hill. Now let's look at the evidence. We have the PYQ sources, 13CSP1.pdf, 14CSP1.pdf, and others. Let's start with 2013 question 62.
Let's pull that up. This is where the rubber meets the road.
The question asks about laterite soils. It gives 4 statements.
They are generally red in color.
They are rich in nitrogen and potash.
They are well developed in Rajasthan and UP.
Tapioca and cashew nuts grow well on these soils.
This is a beautiful question because if you understood our discussion on climate and desilication from just a few minutes ago, you can solve this from first principles.
Let's break it down one by one. Statement 1, they are generally red in color.
Okay, what did we say about laterite soils? They form in high rain, high temperature areas. What happens in those conditions?
The silica gets washed away. Desilication.
And what's left behind?
Iron and aluminum. And the iron, it oxidizes, it rusts.
Which makes it what color?
Red. So statement 1 is correct. That was easy.
See? Right. Now look at statement 2. They are rich in nitrogen and potash.
This sounds like a trap.
It is the classic UPSC trap. They know you associate lush tropical vegetation with fertile soil. You see a picture of a rainforest, you think rich soil. But remember the biological factor we just discussed?
The bacteria eat everything super fast, and the heavy rain washes all the nutrients away, the process of leaching.
Exactly. Intense leaching. The rain washes everything that's soluble away. So are these soils rich in nutrients like nitrogen and potash?
No. They're poor. They're chemically starved.
Correct. The source confirms that laterite soils are generally poor in nitrogen, phosphate, and calcium. So statement 2 is definitely incorrect. If you fell for that jungle equals rich soil fallacy, you'd get this wrong.
Okay, that helps eliminate some options right away. Statement 3. They are well developed in Rajasthan and UP.
Again, go back to the climate required for them to form. What do you need?
You need very high rainfall.
And does Rajasthan get high rainfall?
No. It's arid. It's a desert.
Right. And UP is mostly subhumid to semi-arid. Laterite soils are found in the high rainfall areas of the Western Ghats, parts of the Northeast, Odisha, not in the dry plains of UP or the deserts of Rajasthan. So statement 3 is incorrect.
And finally, statement 4. Tapioca and cashew nuts grow well in these soils.
This is a specific knowledge point, but the text mentions that while these soils are poor, with proper fertilizer and management, they are used for plantation crops. And it explicitly lists cashew and tapioca as crops adapted to these soils, particularly in places like Kerala and coastal Karnataka where these soils are common.
So statement 4 is correct. That means the correct option would be the one that says 1 and 4 are correct.
Precisely. You see, you didn't need to memorize a table of soil properties. You just needed to understand the process of desilication, oxidation, and leaching. The answer is derived from the mechanism.
Love that. Let's look at another one. 2014, question 42. This one is about soil erosion.
Okay.
The question asks, the problem of soil erosion is associated with which of the following? And it gives 3 options. 1, terrace cultivation. 2, deforestation. 3, tropical climate.
This is a logic test based on the factors and processes we've been talking about.
Let's look at deforestation.
We discussed this under the biological factor. What happens when you remove the forest?
You remove the roots that hold the soil together, and you remove the leaves, the canopy that breaks the impact of the raindrops.
Right. So without vegetation, erosion accelerates massively. So this is definitely a cause of erosion.
Okay, what about tropical climate?
Well, what's a key feature of many tropical climates?
Intense rainfall.
Intense rainfall. And heavy rain provides the kinetic energy to dislodge soil particles and the runoff to carry them away. So yes, tropical climates are very often associated with high rates of soil erosion.
Right. Now, terrace cultivation. This is the tricky one, the one they put in to catch you.
So what is terrace cultivation? It's cutting steps into a slope. Why would farmers go to all that trouble?
To create flat areas to plant on.
Yeah.
And to slow down the water as it runs down the hill.
Exactly. To prevent erosion, to capture the soil and water. So terrace cultivation is a solution to soil erosion, not a cause.
So the answer should only include deforestation in tropical climate. They are associated with the problem, while terracing is associated with the solution.
Correct. The question is checking if you can distinguish between a problem and a mitigation strategy. It's a simple check, but in the pressure of the exam hall, people see cultivation and slope and just circle everything. You have to pause and think about the function of each term.
That's a great point. Let's jump to a mains question to show the deeper level of synthesis required. This isn't multiple choice. This is essay writing. From 2014, question 22.
So this is a good one. It requires you to connect different parts of the syllabus.
The question asks, why did the Green Revolution in India virtually bypass the eastern region despite fertile soil and good availability of water?
This is a perfect example of connecting physical geography with human geography. This is the hallmark of a high-scoring candidate.
The question itself sets you up. It admits the physical factors are good. It literally says fertile soil and good availability of water.
Right, so if we look at our soil factors, the parent material in the eastern Gangetic Plain is alluvium, which is great. The climate factor, water availability, is also good. The pedogenesis is perfect for agriculture, but the result, the success of the Green Revolution, was missing.
Why? If the dirt is good and the water is there, why didn't it take off like it did in Punjab?
Because soil potential is just that potential. You need the human, economic, and policy framework to unlock it. The Green Revolution was a package. It needed high-yielding seeds, fertilizer, pesticides, and, crucially, reliable irrigation and credit.
And the eastern region lacked that infrastructure.
At that time, yes. The focus was on the already developed canal irrigation infrastructure of Punjab, Haryana, and western UP. The eastern region, despite having good soil, suffered from issues like fragmented land holdings, lots of small, tiny farms, a lack of institutional credit for small farmers, and inadequate rural infrastructure.
So for a mains answer, you would first acknowledge the physical geography. Yes, the soil is fertile alluvial soil, a product of, but then you'd pivot to say the reasons were socioeconomic and institutional.
Exactly. It shows a holistic, multidimensional understanding of the issue. You are telling the examiner, I know the soil science is sound, so the problem must lie elsewhere in the human systems.
That's a great breakdown. Now, let's zoom out even further. We can't really talk about Indian soils without talking about where India actually came from. This brings us to tectonics and parent material on a grand scale.
The big picture. The 250-million-year-old story that's written in our rocks.
The provided source, 25CSP1.pdf, and the NCERT text both talk about continental drift and the evidence for it.
Yes. They mention Alfred Wegener's theory and how India was once part of the supercontinent Gondwana land, way down in the southern hemisphere, joined with Africa, Australia, Antarctica, and South America.
And there is hard physical evidence for this in India called tillite.
Tillite is a fascinating rock. It's basically fossilized glacial debris. It's a sedimentary rock formed out of the deposits left by glaciers. And the text states that the Gondwana system of rocks in India has a thick layer of tillite at its base.
Glaciers in central India. That seems impossible given our tropical climate today.
Ancient glaciers, from when India was near the South Pole. But here's the kicker, the clinching evidence. Similar tillite sequences of the same age are found in Africa, the Falkland Islands, Madagascar, Antarctica, and Australia.
So it proves they were all connected and covered by the same ice sheet.
It's unambiguous evidence. It's like finding matching puzzle pieces on different continents. It proves they were all clustered together under a massive ice sheet in the southern hemisphere. Our land was once covered in ice.
And as India broke away and began its long journey north,
as it drifted north towards Asia about 60 to 65 million years ago, a major geological event happened. The text describes the outpouring of lava.
the Deccan traps.
Yes. Massive volcanic eruptions, what we call flood basalt eruptions, flooded the western part of the Indian Peninsula with layer after layer of basaltic lava.
And this brings us right back to soil.
It does. It comes full circle. Remember our first factor of soil formation, parent material. That volcanic lava basalt is the parent material for the regar, or black soil.
The famous cotton soil of Maharashtra and Gujarat.
Exactly. You cannot understand why Maharashtra has deep, clay, black soil that is perfect for growing cotton unless you understand that 60 million years ago, India was moving over a volcanic hotspot that poured out lava. The tectonic history is the soil history. The farmer in Vidarbha today is farming on 60-million-year-old solidified lava.
That is such a powerful direct connection. It connects the deep time of geology to the livelihood of a farmer growing cotton today.
And briefly, the text also mentions the other side of volcanism in crucive forms.
Batholiths, dikes, sills. These are the ones that didn't make it to the surface.
Exactly. This is magma that cooled and solidified inside the crust. Batholiths are huge granitic bodies, the cores of ancient mountain ranges. When the top layers of rock erode away, these granite domes are exposed at the surface. The text mentions the Karnataka Plateau is spotted with these domal hills.
And as those granite hills weather,
Yeah.
what kind of soil do they make?
They form the reddish, sandy soils that are typical of that region. Again, the parent material determines the soil type. The granite batholith gives you red, sandy soil. The basalt lava flows give you black, clayey soil. It's a direct lineage.
So let's just take a moment to recap. We've covered a lot of ground, pun absolutely intended. We've gone from the microscopic bacteria fixing nitrogen in the roots of a plant,
All the way up to the massive tectonic plates colliding and creating the Deccan traps.
we've unpacked the chemistry of oxidation, turning rocks red in the sun.
And the physics of why intense rain on the steep slopes of the western Ghats leads to landslides.
We've seen that every soil is a function of its 5 key factors: time, topography, climate, biology, and of course, parent material.
And crucially, we've seen how UPSC tests this knowledge. They don't just ask, what is soil? They ask about its chemistry, like in the Laterite question. They ask about its erosion. They ask about its agricultural suitability and its relationship with economic development.
They want you to connect all the dots. They want you to be a geographical detective, reading the clues in the landscape.
Always. You have to think like a detective.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with a final provocative thought. Something to chew on after this deep dive is over.
Okay.
The text mentions that soil is technically a renewable resource, but it also says that it takes thousands of years for just a few centimeters of mature soil to form.
Right. It's not renewable on a human timescale. Not even close.
Exactly. We are currently stripping it, eroding it, and degrading it through our activities much, much faster than nature can rebuild it. So the question for you, the listener, is this. In the Anthropocene epoch, the age of humans has biological activity, with a capital H for humans, become the single most powerful and perhaps most destructive soil-forming factor. Are our actions now overwhelming the other 4 natural factors of climate, topography, parent material, and time?
That is a scary but absolutely necessary question to ask. Are we now the primary geomorphic process on the planet?
It seems like we might be, and understanding that, as you said earlier, is the first step to maybe changing course.
We have.
If this deep dive helped you connect those dots, if you felt that aha moment when we linked the ancient lava to the modern cotton crop, please subscribe to Simplified UPSC by PPP.
It really does help the channel grow and lets us know we're on the right track.
Check the Telegram channel for those free notes and the PYQ breakdowns. And if you're ready to really level up your preparation, join the private library for the premium content.
A link for all of that is in the description below.
And please consider supporting us on Patreon if you can. Like this video, share it with a friend, and drop a comment. We read all of them. Good luck with your prep.
Good luck, everyone. Keep digging deep.
We'll see you in the next deep dive.